then?
I make rad stuff with my friends all day.
The Nobodies. It's a great show. Okay, everybody, welcome. This is The Nobodies, episode 3. It is a fantastic time. It's going to be a fantastic show because it is a great show.
It's a great show.
Right?
Absolutely.
As always, accompanied by Edward Gold. I am Zach Huckabee, and our guest today, my very great friend and Edward's new friend.
Yeah.
Mr. Cory Hanneman from Granite Shoals, Texas.
Represent
The metropolis.
Is it appropriate for me to clap?
Yes, for yourself, of course.
Okay.
Or maybe a pat on the back. I don't know.
All right. Cool.
Well, how are you, man? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's fun to be here. I feel pretty good.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, where are you from, man? Who are you? Tell me the cool things that you do with your life. I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, because nobody knows you at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. So I was born and raised in southern Minnesota. Graduated high school and packed up my Ford Escort and drove to Los Angeles and tried to make a living skateboarding. Didn't work very well for me.
Tony Hawk was there and screwed it all up for you, or what?
I wasn't as talented as I thought I was
Oh, okay.
at all.
Me neither.
Yeah, so I went back to Minnesota for a little while, kind of regrouped, and then ended up living in Las Vegas. Met my wife.
Real quick, living in Minnesota, how well do you know Bob Dylan and or Prince?
Huge fans of both, not even acquaintances.
Oh,
of either.
okay.
Well,
Yeah.
We figured that Minnesota, is pretty close-knit.
Yeah, absolutely. But just kind of introverted.
I'll just walk by each other.
Yeah.
I saw him all the time. I just never met him.
I heard he's fun to play basketball with, and go out for waffles with.
Bob
Prince.
Dylan? Oh,
Prince.
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Prince is quite the baller from what I understand, but I haven't ever played with him.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, no question.
Was a baller, yeah.
Yeah.
He
He's
did
balling
like
with Jesus up there. He's dunking over Elijah, talking smack, having fun.
Oh my gosh! All right. Okay. So sorry. I'm
Vegas.
so sorry.
Yeah,
Vegas.
no, it's good. Yeah, so I was going to the University of Nevada at Las Vegas. I met my wife 18 years ago, and we got married, had a couple kids. I had to figure out what I was going to do for a living, and so I sold our house there, took a little bit of the money, moved halfway across the country, and went into business 11 years ago. And that's been the time in Granite Shoals the last 11 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, what made you pick Granite Shoals?
Yeah.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like if you could live anywhere, that's pretty sweet because there's hills and lakes and
Yeah.
trees, and I love it,
Yeah.
So, but what drew us there is there was a guy that had been working out of his garage staining concrete, and I bought his business in 2006. I figured if he could do it, I could do it, and I did that for the first year, and then we kind of scaled the business from there.
So I'm not familiar. Where is this at?
Yeah, Granite Shoals is the north shore of Lake LBJ, so it's
Oh, okay.
the hinterlands northwest of Austin,
Okay.
west even of Marble Falls. So
Okay. So is it kind of ironic that they call it Granite Shoals and you got into the...
concrete business?
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it makes for really great concrete because the sand is and the aggregate is
yeah.
really hard. So we have like stupid hard concrete out there. Which
So
is cool.
anywhere you go, you ship your sand with you to make your...
No, it's expensive to ship sand.
Okay.
And it's weird at the store. You show up with like 120-pound, 1 cubic foot box after another.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? It's like, what? Why? So no.
Well,
Okay.
Cory and I have been friends for a long time, and met through church, and then just became awesome friends after that. And what's cool about Cory is he's an artist. So tell us about your art. Tell us about your business. Like, I want to hear about that because you do concrete something or other.
Yeah.
And so tell me about that.
Yeah, so the concrete their business has been really good to me. I mean, the most creative thing I do now is probably design careers, like design jobs and systems where like information and human beings interact, I think. But like the actual work, I was super turned on by the idea of meeting a basic human need in a clever way. Mm-hmm. So I looked at it like human beings have to have floors and countertops, and if we can make something out of the local stuff or like what's already there, then we're going to totally do that. And so I was fortunate to grow up skateboarding, and I think that makes you look at things in a different way, like try to think like, how else could I use that ledge? How else could I use that thing there? And so we've always been like hacking and
Trying to invent.
Like the
your own-
original
Yeah.
hipsters.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about that mantle, but maybe so. So yeah, so we just try to do the coolest things we can with simple things.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I think you had a question. Why don't you ask him that question?
Well,
That's a good one. Or do you want to ask him
Well,
something?
I do want to, because like, so I mean,
We're
you
very
just, you just
professional
randomly
compared
found
here.
this job. I mean,
The
this
business
concrete?
for
Yeah, you
sale,
just
yeah.
randomly found. You're like, oh, that's what I want to do.
Sort of, yeah. So like, I was shopping for businesses.
Okay.
And it was kind of funny because like that's a weird place
Just
to be.
like businesses.com for sale.
Yeah, something like that. And online, on the interwebs. And I remember like there were all these businesses for sale for health reasons. And I remember asking my dad like, why are the in business health reasons? He's like, that guy's sick and tired of driving to that shop and getting walloped. And so about the time that I was shopping for businesses, I actually thought I was going to be a mechanical contractor, like fix AC systems, because someone's got to do that.
Yeah.
It seemed straightforward, But I had a buddy at work that was building his own house, and he was going to stain the floor, and I helped him do it, like just running mop water or whatever. And I was like stoked, like just all the colors that you got from acid staining, like that turned me on. And I flew out to meet the old owner of the company that I bought, and it just felt right, And so it was a pretty bold move, I mean, we didn't know anybody. My wife had like 3 days and a line of credit to find a house, and just bought like some house like quick, So yeah, so just went for it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, so like obviously you do a lot of different jobs. Like, what's one of your favorites that you've done? I mean, do you have like one that you're like, that's probably my trophy job? I don't know.
It's kind of backwards. Okay, so like I think like there's that path initially, like when you're growing as an artisan.
Yeah.
And then it's about growing and working through other people, and then it's about like developing systems to turn out leaders of people that are most satisfying. I think as far as like an answer to your question, like as far as an artisan, the first job I had that was really cool, you always start off with like a little thing, and then people hire you to do bigger and bigger stuff. And they were doing a car showroom in a casino on a ranch. Like they were just spending money, just building whatever they want.
Yeah.
And the design for it was something that I copied from like a marble floor in Venice or whatever. And I thought I had kind of a clever way to saw cut the design in there. And so I was like batching the cuts, like doing all the parallel cuts at once and doing it in a way that I knew I could pull it all together. And like I've always felt like the weirdo, like the kid that's on the outside looking in a little bit, And like this was an epitome of that.
Yeah.
So like I show up to the job in like bright green Vans and Levi's and a t-shirt, and like it's all these hardcore rednecks, and like they're just looking at me and they're watching like what I'm doing, and it doesn't make any sense to them, and they see me just taking my skill saw to this slab of concrete, and like I could feel them like talking about me and thinking that this is going to go badly, blah blah blah. And then like when I pulled it all together, like there was like legit respect from like the locals.
Oh yeah.
And that's like
cool.
that meant a lot to me. And like also I was really insecure about filling the shoes of the previous owner.
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't feel like I'd ever fit in with the Hill Country people or whatever.
Yeah.
But by just being 100% myself, like they know I'm a weirdo and it's cool and it works.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't think you can talk about your clients, but there was that one time you worked on that one guy's place, and it was pretty awesome. Remember that?
Thanks.
Good story.
Yeah, totally.
Story.
Yeah, that one, the one with the face, right?
Can you talk
That
about
guy with the face.
You know the guitar player guy? Can you talk
Oh
about him?
yeah. No, they're one of the top 3 guitar players ever. Got
Yeah.
to work for him. We got to work for some really amazing people.
Yeah, man.
That's the cool thing about high-end residential for sure.
Okay, so one cool thing about what you said though was, I mean, you do decorative concrete work. So you do floors and you don't do countertops anymore, right?
We
You
still do.
countertops?
We love doing
Yeah.
it. It just like as I got better as a businessman, like figuring out what it really costs us to do stuff and then refining pricing.
Sure.
I got super aggressive on some things, and then other things like I realized, oh my gosh, that has to be really expensive.
Right.
So like we still do probably 1 or 2 a month.
Right.
But I mean, it's expensive. So
Well, I think what I'm getting at is that's kind of that's what draws money in, really. But like what you said was really kind of, and this is your heart because I know it, and maybe it's just what I heard you say because I wanted to hear you say this, but how you grow kind of leaders in your business.
Yeah.
Which is like super cool to me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, not all businesses really function that way. But I mean, really, if you grow leaders, then you actually it makes you more money because they'll take the lead on stuff. But kind of tell me about that. Like, what are kind of your processes by doing that? Because I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. So I think that you can either love money and use people, or love people and use money.
Yeah, that's great.
And so for me, the money is just applause. It's just a sign that you're creating value for another human being, and it's all about creating value for people with people, right?
Yeah.
So I was really late to that party. I was raised extremely well. My parents did a killer job. And so like when I went to work, I was always like the employee of the year, you know, like just got after it because of how my dad raised me. And so the idea of how the boss shows up having a huge effect on the people that are punching a clock was totally foreign to me. Like that was just like really? Like that's a thing? And this is like 6 or 7 years in business that this dawns on me. You know, like I had no clue. And so I had to like make up for it by like just reading tons of books and like going to functions and like spending literally tens of thousands of dollars every year, like educating myself, like learning how to be a leader and be a manager and to deal with people, to be a multiplier.
Yeah.
If you've heard that concept. Yeah. And so, so that's a huge part of what drives us right now is figuring out how to make systems that bring out the best in human beings. Yeah. And then with that, like find people that then have a streak in their personality where they can be like an operator of those systems. So for us, it's all about feedback loops. We're doing a lot of things with software to expense jobs and to track materials and stuff like that so that we can create scoreboards and create games that are fun to play. Because at the end of the day, like everyone working a job is playing a game.
Sure.
And for a long time, the game was don't tick off Cory. And that game stinks. Yeah. You know, that's just a dumb game, you know? Yeah. And so, like, we want to create ways that people can quantify making raving fans and quantify creating value and, like, really shine independently because that's what was always fun for me. Like, I always just try to make stuff that I would want to do.
That's awesome. Really neat is, you know, I'm a blue-collar man.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
And, you know, blue collar guys in this
me too.
day is. Or
no, I mean I'm wearing the fancy jacket.
Yeah,
but,
I'm technically wearing a blue collar. So, but you know, it's people kind of look down on blue collar people. We live in a society that you got to go to 4-year college. You got to do this. You got to do that. What's neat is you're taking these guys and you, like I said, you're training them to be a leader. Right. And now they're probably taking pride in their jobs too, and they're happy.
Oh, for sure. So like and that's really what it's all about. So like what my passion as far as an employer is that I think working with your hands is much more humanizing and a lot more fun. Oh yeah. And you can create a lot of value with your hands if your boss is generous and if it's all about creating knowledge base. So like I've got guys that make 60, 70, last year I had a guy made $80,000 a year as an artisan. You know, and that's super fun. And he earned it. He's worth every penny of that for sure. And so Mike Rowe, I think, has done some really cool stuff.
We were talking about that just before the show started.
Yeah. You know, like pointing out the fact that you can make 2x as a blue collar guy, what you typically would as a white collar guy. Yeah. And like that classism is ridiculous. Like it's really dumb.
It's terrible.
The stoutest old guys you'll ever meet are guys that did construction their whole life. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like your body is not an unrenewable resource. You got to get after it, and it's actually a really healthy thing if you're smart with it.
Yeah, man, that's super awesome. All right, hey, let's take a break real quick.
Okay.
Good news?
Good news, man. So
share it.
I saw this on the YouTube, of course, yesterday. It's pretty a neat story. So this kid had a father. He died. In the Iraq War.
Cool story.
Cool. Yeah, it gets better. It gets better. So, okay, so 9 months. His dad dies. I think a grenade went off, something like that, and his dad died. Anyhow, so the mother sold a car to help pay for childcare, stuff like that. Now it's been like 15 years later. This kid's 15, and I guess she had come across the registration for this car that her husband used to drive. And she was just kind of curious, like, see if she could track it down. So she put a Facebook ad on Facebook, and just, I guess it got populated all, you know, the way Facebook works. And someone in Utah, these people are from Texas, someone from Utah found or saw it, and she's like, oh, this is my dad's car. And so she gave them the number. They contacted the dad. He decided to sell it, but they didn't have the funds for it. So there's this organization called the Follow the Flag organization. Okay. And I guess it's some sort of, you know, military deal. They stepped in, helped gather the funds. They actually restored the car, drove it down to Texas, and surprised the kid with this car for his 15th birthday.
Cool, that is
and it's like
awesome.
His dad's car that, you know, was his pride and joy back in the day.
That's super awesome.
Really neat story.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Good news.
Great news.
We like to share a little bit of good news from time to time.
I love it. Yeah,
too much bad news out there.
Too much bad news. We're funny guys. We like to have fun. You know. So, okay. Well, cool. I love that because you know pouring into people is my biggest deal. So I really and I think part of that deal, and I want to get into these questions, but part of that is finding those. It's really special when you find those people that have that streak in their personality where they say, no, I want to do something different. You know, I don't want to I don't want to just come to work. Like I want to make a difference. You know, it's very hard to find those people. I have seen it's kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there's three things, right? Like, I mean, just do the right thing, do your best, whatever you're doing, and show people that you care. And I think that resonates with human beings in general. And I think just finding someone that doesn't have some crappy belief like blocking that is what it's about. Or someone who you can dislodge the crappy belief and then get them back to normal. Because I think that I mean, there's no reason why a human being should like just wallow in lameness.
Sure.
For any time. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It is fun.
Okay. All right. Question. I have a question. Greatest lesson that you've learned in business?
I'll give you a handful. So I think that empathy is probably the greatest skill in business. And I mean that like on a lot of levels, right? Like really putting yourself in the skin of another human being with everything that they have going on. That's probably like a real big one. And then with that, what's interesting is you have to fish with fish food or bait and not your favorite food.
Yeah, right.
So like, I mean, golden rule is easy for me. It's really fun to give people opportunities that I would like. But like, I realize I'm an outlier in that if I give somebody a super long leash that I would take and just run with, they'll hang themselves.
Yeah.
And so you got to be really gangster with it. You got to be like really short leashed and like really narrow in instruction initially and then meter it out over time. Which is kind of weird because you're kind of running game on people on some level. But at the other side of the coin is if you don't do that, you're doing them a disservice.
Well, it's almost, I mean, my job is teaching. You give them a little bit of leash, but you can't give them too much leash.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't treat them like you'd want to be treated 100% because you're a grown-up.
Well, sometimes.
On paper.
On paper,
yeah. You didn't watch the other episodes because he plays PlayStation with 10-year-olds.
All the
usually
time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but...
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying that that's like the greatest pearl that there is in business.
Sure,
I'm just saying like that was
Lessons
my
that
biggest
you learned,
blind spot. That was the biggest thing. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
This is a neat one. Like as an employer, if you're someone's boss, you have a sign on your forehead that you can't ever get rid of that flashes that like I can fire you.
Oh yeah.
And so that like completely ruins your connection as a buddy or whatever. And it like always will make things weird. And it took me a long time to figure that one out. That was kind of weird.
You're like, oh, it's weird when I'm around. I don't understand.
Everybody acts like they're really busy all the time when I'm around. I don't get it.
It's so funny. Why does everyone lie to me? Oh yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Greatest book you ever read?
I mean, does the Bible count? Because that's like
that's a good one. I really wanted to ask you.
Staple.
I really wanted to ask you because I think it's fascinating. I think a lot of people would find this fascinating, especially believers. Is like how you came to know the Lord is like super fascinating.
Yeah. Okay, I'll tell that story.
I think
sure.
I think it's fascinating. So I think it'd be cool to put on the show.
Yeah. So I did not come to Jesus because I was healed physically or because I grew up in the church or anything crazy like that. I actually just came to Jesus rationally first. Like I was seeking capital T truth. When I was at UNLV, this is kind of one long story leading into another. All right, so let's back up to high school. I dropped out of the math class I had my senior year of high school, and I thought that I was bad at math. And so when I went to college, I'm like, okay, well, I'm bad at math, so I need to get the book they're using, and then I'll get a couple books they're not using, and I'll just grind odd problems in all of them, and I'll make it through. And I did that. And I got like a 99 or 100%. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. But then I thought, well, it's a dumb math class anyhow, because I think I took like math 96D or some dumb thing like that, Like it wasn't even for credit. I might not. I don't know. It was dumb though. And then so like I did it again and I got like 100%. I did it again. I got like 100%. And I just kept doing that. And then like went through 3 semesters of calculus and linear algebra and differential equations and like a lot of statistics classes.
Yeah, so you and I are like about the same person then.
Yeah. But like here was the thing is that like I thought I was dumb at math. I thought I had like a good verbal IQ. I always knew I could talk, but I thought that I was like deficient biologically. And so I started just taking crazy math classes, like just like nuts. And so the University of Nevada at Las Vegas, there's a lot of game theory. There's a lot of stuff about creating things for casinos, obviously, because it's huge business there. And
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, right. So theoretical physicists and mathematicians will come up with things that you won't use for decades. So, for instance, there's a thing that Gödel came up with. Kurt Gödel was an Austrian physicist. mathematician, and he came up with a thing called the Gödel incompleteness theorem. And it says that any axiomatic system that is at least as sophisticated as arithmetic, so that would then be geometry and algebra and whatever, a million different things, has exactly one, not two, not zero, not three, exactly one axiom or statement that is both of the system and outside of the system on which the whole system hinges upon. So like I said, like sometimes they come up with these things and then they don't find a use for it for decades. Well, one of the things, again, mathematicians too, they come up with all kinds of craziness that sounds like there's, but you need it.
Yeah.
So like the square root of -1 is craziness, but you absolutely need that for electrical engineering, right? Like you can't not have that placeholder.
I like how you're looking at me like, oh, you get that, right? And I'm just like, I was over here thinking like, what is an axiom? Like that's what I was about to do.
Yeah, an axiom is a rule.
That's okay.
We agree that 3 is going to be like this many microphones,
Okay.
right? Okay,
Right.
And we agree that like 2 + 1 will equal 3.
Right.
So like how addition works would be an axiom.
Okay, all
It's
right,
like a
great.
rule of the game.
Right.
Okay.
See, I told you.
Throw me under the bus.
Just kidding.
All right, so let me try to tie it
all right,
together.
yeah.
So like one of the axioms of Euclidean geometry or regular geometry, like you learn in 9th grade or whatever, is that any two non-parallel lines will intersect at exactly one point.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that, right?
Yeah.
That can be a Gödel statement. That can be the thing that is both of the system and outside of the system on which it hinges upon. So you can change that statement to say that any two non-parallel lines intersect at exactly 2 points, and it gives rise to this bizarro world called hyperbolic geometry that is actually super useful for different types of engineering and whatnot. And it's crazy talk, right? Like if you can imagine like a world where every non-parallel line bends back onto itself,
Yeah.
once, that's kind of kooky, but it totally works. Okay, that's the nutty part, right? So keep that on one part of your mind, right? Just kind of table that for a second, and then think of 1990s, late 90s, like actually early 2000s, Cory. That version of this model. And you're looking at humanity as an axiomatic system. Why? Because casinos know that how large numbers work and how people decide things and how games work over time. And so like insurance companies, they're built on the probability of what people are going to do in large numbers. It gets predictable, with big enough numbers. And so you start realizing that like humanity is definitely a system.
Yeah.
And about the same time, like that was after the Matrix movies had came out, so you start looking at it that way. And then you realize, okay, well, that's definitely as sophisticated or more so than arithmetic, right?
Yeah.
And mathematically, it's proven, and that's a big statement. Like if you've done a lot of proofs, like you understand the rigor and like the cleanliness of that thinking.
Sure.
So it's mathematically proven that has to have one element that is both entirely of the system and entirely outside of the system, on which the entire system hinges upon. That sounds a lot like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like good theologians talk about the hypostatic nature of Christ. And like as a guy that's not, as a college dropout, honestly, like I bailed before I even got a bachelor's degree, so I don't want to come across like I'm smart or whatever. But
you fooled everybody so far.
I'm a good
Once you start talking to theology, then you're in my realm. So
yeah,
it's
right.
exciting, yeah.
But like what's interesting is that like systematic theology is proven with the same rigor that mathematical proofs are.
Oh yeah.
And the only way that you can do a systematic theology is with proper doctrine, right? And like you look at, and okay, so there's that, and then you also look at like, okay, I'm going to seek capital T truth. Well, I'm going to humbly assume that a lot of the ideas I've had, other people have had and have pursued.
Sure.
The best thinkers in human history, without question, are Christians.
Yeah.
Like to a man, now, I mean, not to say that there aren't some really smart atheists, like Dawkins and what's the guy in the wheelchair? Stephen
Hawking.
Yeah. Super smart guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like they all kind of end up at the same thing, and they all end up with things that where you can kind of see a gap in their reasoning regarding theology.
Yeah.
Where you're like, you just really don't want to buy it.
Yeah, it's just an anti-theist type situation.
Totally.
Yeah.
And as a guy that's been married for 17 years, it's not all wine and cupcakes.
Yeah.
If I'm really honest, there were seasons where I really did not want what Jesus said about marriage to be true.
Yeah.
Like I would like to try to trade in and see what else I could do or whatever.
Yeah, right.
All kinds of dumb ideas.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's plenty of reasons to disprove what Christ said or disprove Christ.
Yeah.
And everybody that's honestly tried to do that has ended up like Lee Strobel or like C.S. Lewis or whatever. They end up converting or they're like Bart What's-His-Face and they just like, oh, I'm not going to deal with that.
Yeah.
Bart Ehrman.
Whatever. Yeah.
The New Testament textual scholar.
Yeah. So like there's Ayn Rand called it evasion, right? Like she said that was like the ultimate sin was evading reality or evading facts. And so like if you honestly seek, like you can't not end up there.
That's cool, man.
And so that's kind of how I got started. And
That's
then my heart
awesome.
came after my head.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
It's
See, I told you it was a good story.
Unbelievable, honestly.
Yeah.
Finding Christ in math.
Yeah. I love it. So many kids are going to be excited now. They're going to walk into math class like, I'm here to find Jesus.
I'm like, where's Jesus in this book?
Yeah.
I mean, it's here
So
somewhere.
cool, man.
Well, I think the takeaway is probably more when you're raised in the church and then you go off to college and you're exposed to a bunch of ideas, it's easy to become sophomoric.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Right? And the roots of those words mean wise moron.
Yeah.
Because like you're not really there yet, but you've got some ideas.
Yeah.
And there's plenty to kick in religion. Like I think religion is garbage. Like I think that grace is real, God is real, Christ is real, the Bible is God's word, and religion is a slippery, dangerous slope.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so like it's easy to like lose your religion and throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
And so like I guess the takeaway of my story is persist in seeking truth.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to seek truth, you should have a season where you totally doubt everything. Like that makes sense. You're going to have that, but persist because you're probably not done yet if you're landing someplace totally different than all the best thinkers in humanity so far.
That's usually where that's my reasoning on there too. It's
Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, but honestly, man, I mean, you're like, I hear stuff like that. I'm like, you really think you're smarter than Thomas Aquinas?
Yeah.
You really think that you're smarter than Augustine of Hippo? Like for real?
I mean,
I hear that stuff all the time.
Yeah. Just keep going.
Just keep going.
I mean, like there's an old punk rock song and it said in the beginning that if you're not rebellious at 20, you've got no heart, and if you haven't come establishment by 30, you might not have a brain.
Oh yeah.
Because you just got to keep going. Not to say that you're just automatically smarter as you get older, but it's a process that you have to go through. At least for me.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Okay.
I mean, like if you're not getting smarter as you get older, something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, it's uphill though because like I went running earlier today, and getting slower is automatic.
Sure.
Yeah.
You have to go upstream. Getting smarter is not automatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anything, you're gonna forget stuff. You're very, my kids are in middle school and high school now.
Yeah.
And they study a lot more than the adults I know.
Yeah. Sure.
And so like if you think of like mental fitness, like dude, that atrophies so fast.
Well, I was listening to a guy, his name's Andy Andrews, and he's a speaker and writer and stuff, and one of my faves. But he said, what do you call a kid that reads 2 books a year? And they said, well, you call him slow. He goes, what do you call an adult that reads 2 books a year? And you call him normal. but I mean, I think that learning is the biggest deal. And I think now, I mean, you probably would agree with this. Like, I feel like I learn better now. I'm like smarter in my learning now. And,
for
that
sure.
kind of thing.
You want it though.
Yeah, because I want it. Yeah, you're not being forced to do it and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's fascinating. Okay, ready? Rapid fire. You ready for rapid fire? Okay.
I'm
all right.
Return slowly, probably.
Okay. All right. Favorite punk rock band?
God, there's so many good ones. I listened to a lot of Stick to Your Guns lately.
Okay.
And I like Rise Against a lot. The sound of it. Yeah.
Okay. Apple, Android or iPhone?
It used to be the iPhone for sure. It's getting worse. I don't know. I might end up jumping ship. The new iOS is awful.
Join the not dark side.
Yeah, I mean, I might be going to the Pixel because I can't even send a text message or make a phone call half the time. It's just awful. It's a shame. I loved Apple so hard, like in 208, 209, 210, 211. It was awesome.
You did that really cool thing with iPads in that art piece.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah,
man.
that was super cool.
Yeah.
Trapezoid or triangle?
Trapezoid. No question. You know that.
Favorite restaurant?
Hugo's Cellar in the Four Queens in Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a special place for my wife and I.
Okay.
And the food is amazing. Yeah.
I have to try it out.
Yeah, it's a little. I hope it's still in business. I mean, it's a little hole in a wall in a downtown casino, but it's just gangsters. Stay as long, dude. It's so good. They got this Chilean sea bass that will blow your mind.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
dude. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Fun.
That was so much fun. I enjoyed it. Hey, I have a book of the week. You want to hear my
Okay.
book of the week?
Yeah,
We do a
for
book of
sure.
the week. Last week we did Do Over by John Acuff. You ever follow John Acuff? He's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Stuff Christians do.
Stuff Christians like.
Hilarious.
And then he wrote a book recently that I just read, and it's really good, and I think I'll talk about it next week. But book of the week is Chip Gaines. You know
Oh,
Chip
really?
Gaines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wrote a book.
And he did. It's called
He should do some promotion for himself. 'Cause he's kinda
Yeah.
like-
It's like, who's that? You know,
Yeah.
that's thanks, buddy.
That's cool, though. I love that guy.
He wrote a great book, and it's called Capital Gains: The Smart Things I Learned by Doing Stupid Stuff.
Nice.
And
Very
man, it's
clever
so
name.
good, man. He talks about all sorts of awesome stuff. He talks about his marriage, talks about the business, talks about the TV show, and man, he's just a hard worker, man. For real. I can't even do this episode anymore, man. This is crazy. Corey, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah,
It was
my
awesome.
pleasure.
We had a great time,
Yeah.
and hey, we'll see you next week for the Nobodies. It's going to be an awesome show.
Another one.
Another one, another awesome guest, another awesome
Yes.
time. See you next time. Adios.
The Nobodies.
It's a great show.